Let's giddy up. Welcome back to the Cosas Verdes show. Welcome back to the Cosas Verdes show on this nice Thursday, May 19th, where Bitcoin is having a little bump up with the traditional markets having a bounce, although I didn't see this little bounce coming in the charts. So what we're going to do here in today's analysis is cover short-term time frames, see how they align with the larger time frames. And then I might go into a little bit of what I'm personally doing, as I essentially made a guess about what this day's candle was going to be, and I guessed wrong essentially. And I want to let you know a little bit about my thoughts on what I do when I have a setup and the setup doesn't work, and how I manage things from there without going specifically into futures, but just the overall thought process, because I thought my targets were going to hit down below and price is moving up to the top of the range instead. So I'll try to only take about 20 minutes for a Bitcoin analysis, and then I will move along to Q&A. Let me get something going here. So with no other delay, let's jump into Bitcoin price and see if we're going to get a downside move after the top of the range is hit. So let's dive in. In my last Bitcoin video, I had the strong assumption that these boxes were going to be hit because all of the time frames, the very small time frames from 5 minute to 30 minute, the 1 hour to 4 hour, and the daily, the larger time frames daily through weekly, everything around here started aligning to the downside. Everything. And the stars were aligning for a down move. Things became very, very probable, even structurally, with these horizontals all being broken, with my structural channel, the trading channel, price dipping under it and essentially failing the line. It really looked highly, highly probable that these targets were going to be hit. And again, like I always say, just because the probabilities are on your side doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. That's what risk management is for, because if you had an edge and it always happened, you wouldn't need risk management. You would just only trade when you had an edge, right? And it would work every time, but that's not the way it works. So risk management is very important. So on this day, so I guess my wizard hat streak is gone now, right? I got to take off my wizard hat. Price moved in the exact opposite direction for today's price action. And I had been on a roll for quite a while, but I guessed the wrong direction today, and I'm going to try to figure out what was I missing in the charts. That's what I should have said at the beginning. What was I missing in the charts? And it's going to pretty much have to do with traditional markets. I wasn't analyzing those correctly. So let me put myself on the top right here. So I was dead wrong for today's price movement. It happens. Short-term time frames, it's hard to guess every day correctly. So let me show you what I was thinking. Given that yesterday the stars definitely were aligning, I had the strong assumption, first off, on just structurally that these would be hit. And what that means for the end of this, so this is the daily chart. This daily candle closed very bearish engulfing red, which means it's statistically likely after bearish engulfing candle that the next daily candle will wick up at the beginning and then head down and flip red, which it technically could happen, but it's not looking very likely at this point. So you do automatically have the edge after this bearish engulfing candle. Stokes were pointing down. You had a lower high plus Stokes going down. It was extremely probable. So the Bitcoin chart, just for the Bitcoin chart, it looked very obvious that those targets were going to be hit. So what did I miss? And it's essentially the futures of Nasdaq are leading spot. So it's easiest just to look at this. And here's what I missed. Let me go ahead and zoom out so you can see this a little bit better. I'll zoom way out. This is Nasdaq Composite Futures. Maybe go to the 2-day chart. I have these origin lines here. This is the master origin line, or the median, so it's the most important straight line that you could probably find for Nasdaq Composite Futures. And this is, imagine this is the equator of the Earth. You have the tropic lines, right? I don't know what latitude those fall under. It might be 23.5, actually. I would imagine it has to do with the tilt of the Earth. I don't know. I should know that. Kind of a astronomy, amateur astronomy geek, but Surprised I don't know. But anyway, imagine these as the tropics, right? So where the sun is exactly overhead, exactly on the equinoxes. And so price is bouncing directly on here. So if I'm going to zoom into that area, which is in a very important line, like all three of these lines that are bluish are very important. So if I zoom into that, if we go way into here, let me go down, let me start zooming in, go to the, let's even go to the 1 hour chart maybe. I might even go lower. Let me take off these other distractions here. There we go. Price was essentially making, it had a failed pattern of an inverse head and shoulders. That was essentially a fake out. So that's very, very common. You have these, and Bitcoin's starting to do the same thing. It goes right over the breakout line and then turns the other way. Pretty common stuff. And then it broke down below the support area. It went all the way below the, it just had a nasty melting down red day. And so it found support here from this area, and I did not anticipate it coming up to retest this line before it keeps going down. And if you watch my channel a lot, you know that I say one of my favorite setups, essentially for a short, is when it goes below an area of support, comes up to it, gets rejected, or goes slightly above it, then fails it. That's one of my best, that's one of my favorite ways to see further downside, right? And what I think I was missing is the possibility of it losing. Here, let me get rid of some of this stuff. The possibility of Nasdaq, because Bitcoin's moving with this. If this goes up, Bitcoin goes up, right? I mean, hopefully we're all accepting that by this point. I've given sufficient evidence where it's very clear, and so have other crypto YouTubers. It's just everybody knows Bitcoin's following this. Typically, even down to the 5-minute candle. If you have 2 green 5-minute candles, then 2 red, so will Bitcoin. Typically, not always, but typically, right? Or 1 hour, 2 1 hour green candles, then 2 1 hour red candles. Bitcoin will also follow the same thing. Anyway, I did not see Bitcoin bouncing hard. So Bitcoin, this whole time, what I wasn't paying attention to is this had a meltdown, but Bitcoin held fairly strong. Bitcoin just kind of moseyed down and actually started making higher lows as this was still melting down. I should have said to myself, and this was after my analysis yesterday, so I couldn't have seen that coming, right? However, in the middle of the day, which I didn't change my analysis, is I didn't take the idea that Bitcoin didn't melt down with this, and that if, assuming that it found some type of support at this horizontal from the recent local low, given that Bitcoin didn't melt down with this, if this were to find support here and then do a baby bounce up to here, Bitcoin would bounce harder because Bitcoin outperformed the stock market as it went down. So as it bounces, Bitcoin should outperform the stock market as it goes up too. And that's what I missed. However, during my analysis yesterday, this was still like in the middle of this, so there's no way I could have anticipated that. However, what I could have done in my analysis, even for my Discord updates, because I still got it wrong, I later in the day I could have made another update saying, hey, Bitcoin, during this time, Bitcoin is not melting down like the stock market. It's kind of trying to mosey up and get some higher lows. So if it finds support here, you might want to watch out for a pump on Bitcoin. If and when it hits this level, because Bitcoin would outperform the pop up as well. And so that's a reiteration of exactly what I missed. So I'm not going to go in necessarily to how I deal with that, but I will show you on the micro time frames what I was thinking. What I was thinking here was, should I get rid of some of these lines? Yeah, let me get rid of some of this. Yeah, let me get rid of those. This is roughly where the day end. Let's see, right about where did the day end? The day, so the 18th, right there. So the day ended about right here. I was, where did it end? Where's the daily? The day ended down here. Okay, so go to the 5-minute chart. There you go. So the last day ended here. So because it ended on a low mark, I anticipated that Bitcoin, let me go back to the daily. I anticipated that Bitcoin was going to wick up to a certain degree, not more than halfway up, and then head back down on the day. So on the micro time frames, what that means is I would anticipate the backfill for the daily, but looking at it on the small time frames, so this is where the day ended. I was expecting it to essentially go like from here. I thought it was going to come above this line. See this line here? The top of the point of control, because it lost it. I thought it was going to come above, which it did, and then come back down, which it did do. But as it did that, it formed a higher low and then actually used this as support. So I was expecting price action to go like this. And if I could draw that out, so this is where the day ended. I expected it to pop up, which it did, and then head back down and essentially fail that line and go here, right? And so if I were in shorts, which I was, I literally just got stopped out. And using 5, for example, this is a rule of thumb. If you're using 5x leverage, your stops need to be 0.8% or less away from your average entry. And I've gotten stopped out twice. So I've been wrong twice, and then I just gave up and I waited for a different entry. So if I get stopped out twice, I typically just accept that I'm interpreting the charts wrong, and I want to wait till I think I have more clear direction, and I analyze what did I miss. And since I've analyzed what I've missed, and I think that Bitcoin might head back down now that Nasdaq has retested that line. It might head back down. I did enter a short about right here, so I'm probably at break even right now. So I waited till another setup, and it looks like Bitcoin might come up shy. So if I get stopped at again, then I might take my small loss and then try one more with a wick above this line up here, and that's how I'm playing it essentially. So on 5x leverage, so a 0.8% means it's a 4% loss. But sometimes what I do is when I know I'm wrong, I start, before my stops are hit, I start shaving off my position so it's smaller, so I actually don't take a 4% loss. But I was stopped out twice during this move, and that's what risk management's all about. I don't just say, oh, my liquidation's way up here. No. You get out quickly. And that's essentially how I did it. And on my VIP call last night that I recorded, so if there's if I have any Discord members on here watching this this live show or the recording of it, the VIP video that I went over last night, we went for 2 hours long, and I had folks newer to futures on there, so I went very in depth. Like, actually pulled up my futures stuff and everything, and people were asking, how do you set stops? And so I walked everybody through it pretty step by step, how I split up stops and everything, if you wanted to check that out. And for folks who aren't part of the community, that's the type of stuff we do on Discord. And I just whether it's a group of newer folks or intermediate, just depending on how the group is at that time who's on the live call, I typically walk through things and show you exactly the exchange and walk you through exactly how I'm doing things. It's a video voice chat 5 to 6 times a week, and the links to that are in the description section of all my videos. My Twitter's Costas Verdes with the number 2 afterward. And if online communities are not your thing, because you work 14 hours a day typically, you can hit the join button right below my typical videos, and another video pop up describing what you'll get. It's typically about 10 to 14 daily updates a week, and we'll rock and roll from there. What do I think price is going to do from here? Honestly, I don't see a lot of clarity right now in the charts. This is flighty, floaty price action. I think a lot of things are possible. It could peter out right here and head back down, with Nasdaq failing that line, essentially, that origin line. It could keep making higher lows and essentially get above this line and then head down and then try it all again, make a lower high and then come back down. I don't see a lot of clarity in the charts because the overall direction is down, and this is a corrective bounce up. I just don't know how high this corrective bounce up will go. However, I am confident on the weekly that this week will end red, because we're halfway through the week and it's still red, and most of the indicators that I use, whether it's RSI, stochastic RSI, MACD, doesn't matter. I mean, things are pointing down for the weekly. So let's go down to the 2-day. The 2-day chart, let me go ahead and put on my 10. I mean, you're well below the 10 EMA. Pressure, let me put on some indicators here. It is trying to make a higher low, so that's not bad, but it could also bump its head here and then keep heading lower. So the 2-day chart isn't giving me much direction, but the weekly is. The weekly is saying pressure's down. 2-day is saying wishy-washy stuff until I wick above here, then I might head down lower. A lot of the time frames aren't really agreeing right now. So when your different time frames aren't, the very small time frames aren't aligning with the mid and larger time frames. So this is a corrective bounce. It's flighty, floaty price action. It's just essentially stuck it's essentially a game of pinball. So if you zoom, let me go to the 1 hour chart. The only thing that I'm confident about is it'll keep playing pinball along these lines. That's all I am confident about. Which lines it hits and how it reacts, that's the question, because this is just flighty floaty price action. So and the importance of that, when you accept the idea that I can't see clear direction, if you trade, you just trade more lightly, and you keep following your risk management rules, and you don't take on big positions until you get clarity. That's the only thing you can do. This is still floating sideways. There's not a lot to do besides but the only confidence that I have are these lines, because the time frames aren't aligning. And I know you come to my channel for me to make a guess, but right now the importance of what I'm saying is you have to know when you don't see clarity, and you have to know how to react to that, because it happens a lot. Right? You don't always want to feel confident in direction. When you're not confident in direction, you have to recognize that and not just be proud about yourself like, ooh, I need to guess a direction. No, you don't. You don't need to guess a direction. So if you need to meet a goal of making $20 a day on futures or whatever your little goal is, and you need to trade within that, in that environment, you simply trade on lighter positions. Like if you typically, play with $1,000 position or a $500, so let's pick $1,000 position, you trade with $500 that day. You cut it in half essentially, and it is a very important learning lesson. Or you don't trade at all, or if you have a garden to go do and there's no direction in Bitcoin, just get off the charts and go do normal shit in life and get off the charts. That's another option. Sometimes no trade is the best trade, and right now I really can't tell the direction for the short-term time frames. Long-term time frames, I think the bottom of this channel will be hit over the next several days, maybe even into next week. But in the meantime, I don't know how much this corrective bounce will go. It could actually come up all the way to the weekly open line closer to 31.2, and it could test that and get people, oh, the week flipped green, and then head back down. I don't know what price is going to do from this point. This is a corrective bounce, and it could try to flirt with this weekly open line. So again, this weekly open line is pretty important. You might want to write this on your chart. It's at around 31,270. This is a very important line. So if Bitcoin does keep wiggling up, that could be a pretty good opportunity right there to see how price is reacting to that line. If it comes up and kisses it and fails it, or if it gets above and then fails it like this and use it as resistance, that could be a very good short opportunity right there if that ends up happening. So I have a few ideas in mind. However, I'm simply going to have to play it by ear and see which direction it goes. And again, the only confidence I have is that these lines will get play, but how Bitcoin plays with them is the question that I just don't have a lot of clarity right now. And let me, so I think that's about 20 minutes of Bitcoin analysis. So I'm going to try to jump on over to the Q&A questions, and let's rock and roll. All right, I'm going to skip to a couple of, so Sean Dillard, community member, I need as much TA as possible. I'm stacking KDA. Yeah, I mean, you might want to put some KDA orders under $1. I really think that's where it's going to go. And it could take several months to get down there. Let me take a look at quick KDA. Somebody's asking for. Okay, here's KDA. So somebody's trying to stack KDA. All right. Okay. I'm not for sure what day it was, or actually I could just look. So around April 19th, you can look for my KDA video around maybe April 20th, April 19th. Before it fell out of this, I made a video saying if it falls past here and tanks before Bitcoin has a capitulation event, it's going to go lower in the bear market than the bottom of this box, right? And it did do that, and it hit the bottom of my box perfectly. And I thought that was the final 2022 bear market target, potentially. But because it fell before Bitcoin was done, right? So this fell when Bitcoin was actually doing kind of okay, holding on to a thread there. I think it was, Bitcoin might have been around 35K at this point, or 33 or something to that effect. Over time, KDA should come down to this structure over here, and this is closer to 80 cents. So, I would, I personally if you're trying to, so you said DCA, not trade. You're not trying to become a seller with those coins that you're accumulating. I mean, I would probably wait until KDA is back in here at minimum, or to DCA a little bit more, and then if it pumps up again, maybe become a seller a little bit with what I DCA'd, and then start looking for closer under $1 thereafter in the next. That could take 60 to 100 days or so. But I'm fairly confident with this analysis, and it might be hard to believe, but I bet most people, when it was right here and I made that analysis with this box, most people didn't believe it would come to $1.40 either. And so just realize that this box is extremely likely to be hit over the next 6 months. Extremely likely. What it does in the meantime, I have no idea. Like, I just know that if you're DCAing, you can go ahead and put your limit buys down here and stack it up. And just wait, and it could take several months. And in the short-term time frame, let's take a look. Actually, I'll go to the 1 hour chart. I'll go to the 4 hour chart. What's this trying to do? Yeah, the 4 hour is stuck under its RSI's EMA. It looks like it's going to keep heading down and make a 45-degree higher low like that. So what price does in the meantime? Price actually doesn't have to go down too far. If that were to happen, it could snag this actually, and then try to wiggle. I don't know what it'll do after that if it keeps going down. So what I would guess is it hits this line, and I would guess that confidently. However, if it goes up from there or if it goes down from there, once it hits, I would have to analyze Bitcoin and traditional markets to determine what would happen at that juncture. So this is one of those moments where you have to accept, what can I see in my 3 compartments of different time frames? I think 3 different ways. They're completely compartmentalized. There's no osmosis among the 3 or anything like that. So all I can see is the short-term time frames. I can't see what's beyond that on the midterm or midterm or beyond. That's the only stuff I can see right now, and I would have to reassess once it hit that short-term time frame target, because the markets are choppy right now. So I would be targeting about for it to hit about $2 again, and I would look for that signal on the I would use the 4 hour chart. The 4 hour chart's looking pretty good on this. I would wait for some 45-degree angle on the RSI and wait for price to hit this, and then reassess at that time once it hits $2. And that's pretty much all I can see, both long-term and short-term, for KDA. All right, what else do we got? The monthly is looking scary. Let's take a look at monthly on Bitcoin here. Okay. All right. Price has come almost down to the bottom of the channel, but remember, every single time, 100% of the times that Bitcoin has fallen in this channel, what has happened? What has happened? It goes below it. Every single time. It doesn't have to do it on the first month that it touches the bottom. It can just keep floating down. So this is indicating that we might be close to a bottom. Might be real close. Could take another another 70 something days, since we have about 10 days left in this month. So it could be like, plus 60, so 75 days. But we might be within 75 days of a bottom here. This is what this chart is indicating. It's real close. This was sort of an anomaly, coronavirus, where it just V-shaped. I don't expect that to happen with the essentially a recession happening, but it'll probably be more reminiscent of this, or hang out for a long time. Like, look how long it hung down here. Look, that's 250 days. And how long was this when it hung down there? It hung down there for 120 days. So we could easily be looking at over 100 days around in this zone from from here to, so 100 days, how much is 100 days? So from, yeah, we could be looking at something like this for quite a while. Could take quite a bit. And if Bitcoin hangs down there for that long, what do you think altcoins are going to be doing? Bitcoin dominance is going to go up. Altcoins will keep bleeding. And that would be 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐸 probably, altcoins continue charging down over the next 120 days or so. If that's what ends up happening. I can't guarantee that's what's going to happen. But yeah, the monthly is looking pretty bearish, but it's also kind of indicating that we are within 120 days of a bottom, or even 75 days of a bottom. We're pretty close. Pretty damn close. All right, let me continue looking at, so thoughts on mover downside targets. Well, that is a community coin, and this is a coin I DCA'd a little too early, but that's what you're supposed to do in DCAing. You're not trying to get the exact bottom with every buy per definition. Just one of your buys, or two or three of your buys out of 10 need to be close to a bottom, right? Because you don't know where the bottom is. Yeah, it went a lot lower than what I was anticipating. I won't lie about that. I don't know. This is looking, it already hit my bear market target. This is pretty weak. It might go 99% down, folks. Like it really could hit $5. I'm not, it might. That would probably be my worst case, but it's, as Bitcoin heads down, it's going to go even lower, and there's nothing here stopping it. So what we might be able to do is go to maybe a 8-hour chart, and I can put on some, let me try doing this. I'm going to do, so this is not the typical fib extension. Rather, how would I do this? I might have to try this twice. This is a trend-based fib extension, not a fib retracement. So that one didn't work. I might have to go into the 4-hour chart. Yeah, that's not going to work for this. Let me try a fib retracement, because there's nothing down here for me to base off of, even though I shit on fibs a lot. Yeah, so actually just the retracement is looking the best right now. So 1280 is the 618. That might be a pretty good guess for mover. Okay, so we're taking a look at mover. Since there's, I didn't record this, let me start recording. Since there's nothing here anymore, so all you have is one opening candle from when it came into existence. There's no support, there's nothing to go off of here. And when you're trying to guess where people are going to be buying, you only guess what is a large group of people going to see, what are the most people going to be looking at. And since there's nothing to really look at here, all you have is a fib retracement from this high. From this high essentially, and the 168 is coming around $12.50. That could be a good guess. So let's make sure that aligns with a couple of things. Is it between 95 and 98%, 99% down from the top? Yes, it is. It's 97.6% down. That makes sense. If Bitcoin were to take a leg down to, let's say, 22K, so let's make sure it aligns with if Bitcoin were to hit my top target of bear market target of 22K, what percentage down from current price would that be? 22K would be actually right at that box that I drew. Remember that from my from the monthly channel? That would be 26%. So mover would probably go down 40% at least, maybe even 50, between 40 to 50%, maybe even 55. So I would guess somewhere between 45 and 55% for mover. So let's go back to mover. And does that align with about 45 to 55% down from current price? Boom! Check it out. So that's a damn good guess. About $12. That is probably a really good target. Everything perfectly aligns. Do you see that? And I didn't plan this. I'm just trying to make sure, is the one thing that I think everybody might look at, does it align with what I already know is likely going to be true? And from the top down, it aligns perfectly. From current price down, it aligns perfectly. So that is a darn good guess. Around 12 and a quarter. For a potential, good area to consider becoming a buyer from mover. I might have given a little too much information, but there is enough liquidity in here, and it could go lower. So, don't put all your eggs in that basket. And if it goes down, to $6, don't be, oh, Costa said, like, oh, I'm down 50%. This is just a target. If you want $500 worth, if you have $500 reserved to buy mover, you might not go all in at that point. Rather, that is an area of interest. It's not an all-in point. Let me be very, very clear with what I'm saying here. It is a target. It is not a guarantee. And this is about Pokemon cards only, not financial advice. So this is not an all-in point, rather an area of extreme interest. And please interpret that as such. And that's what I got from mover for bear market targets for 2022. All right. Let's take a look here. Thoughts? Yeah, I saw that bit. Nice call. Yeah, okay. Non-community members asking about MTV. So I haven't looked at MTV for quite a while. I've heard that from a fundamental standpoint, they had some wishy-washy stuff going on with perhaps moving their headquarters, something to that effect, and it really took a big hit. But then I've heard some, at least from YouTube comments and Twitter comments, that they've had a decent turnaround fundamentally with their team and some stability. So let's see if that is reflected in the charts, or if the group of people who are interested in it, have they not become buyers off of that news? We'll be able to see the reaction in the charts. I haven't looked at MTV in a while, so I'm going to be excited to have a fresh view on this, and I'll have to piece together what I'm looking at here. But this is what I know outside of the charts. Okay, let me go to 8-hour chart looks pretty good. I can see most of the price history like that. Well, remember, I don't know when I drew this box, but when I drew it, I bet a lot of people didn't believe it was going to be hit, right? And it's getting pretty close. So I've essentially extended my origin lines down, and I assumed it was going to break. Let me actually make this a little bolder for you. I safely assumed that this origin line was going to be broken. It not only got broken, if I zoom in here to the 1-hour chart, it not only got broken, but it went below it and failed it, then used it as resistance. Or no, wrong line. So this line right here, it fell below it, used it as resistance, use it as resistance, use it as resistance, and it's probably going to keep working its way down. So MTV target, I don't know, I would 001, really. It looks like 001 is a pretty damn good guess. So 00106. 106 to 107 with 2 zeros in front would probably be and again, this is not an all-in point. So if you have $1,000 that you want to apply, or $100 you want to apply to MTV, this is just a target. This is not, gung-ho, everything all at once type of deal. This is just an area of interest. So 2 zeros in front of 107 to 108 would be a pretty clear target for MTV over the next. And does that align with like 30% down or so? Yeah, that's right there. Look at that. Man, I'm good at guessing today. I wish I could have guessed what Bitcoin was going to do on today's candle. Then I guessed that wrong. But anyway, yeah, that's right at 30%. So that's a pretty realistic target. It could easily wick below, so if that's an area of interest and I wanted to pick some up, I would probably put some orders at 00108, so at 108 with 2 zeros, and I would walk it down all the way to 101. So 2 zeros 101 to 2 zeros 108, I would probably try buying in this area. And again, if I had $1,000 that I wanted to apply to MTV, this doesn't mean you put $1,000 of limit buys here, but maybe half or a third or whatever, and kind of see what happens from there, readjust and decide if you want to pull the trigger harder. This is an area of interest. This is not your all-in point. This is not financial advice. We're talking about Pokemon cards, but 102 to 108 with 2 zeros in front is looking like a pretty clear target now that it has essentially given this up. So it's likely going to work its way down and come here over the next 75 to 80 days. Given that that's kind of my target for how long Bitcoin will keep marching down. So yeah, MTV could be a pretty good pickup, but you want to with projects that have a bump in the road, not as bad as Luna, obviously, project wise, but they did have a bump in the road. So with this type of analysis, you're going to want to mix fundamental analysis. So that means getting on Reddit or Twitter and trying to get sources of information outside of what MTV is releasing. So what I mean by that is when projects release news, it's essentially a type of advertising, right? Like, oh, we have a partnership or this and that. They're advertising for their coin. So anything released by a project, not just MTV, Solana, Ethereum, whatever, it is a form of advertising. So you have to have a grain of salt, but you want to get sources of information outside of that as well, whether it's Reddit articles or whatever. Or if you follow some of the project leaders, the core team on Twitter, see what they're up to. You want to mix this with some fundamental analysis because they did have a bump in the road, and you want to know fundamentally, are they navigating that appropriately, and what have they done to make a change. So mix this chart analysis with fundamental analysis. Do your own research. I don't have that information for you because I'm not a fundamentalist person. I'm a chart nerd, and I hope that's helpful and gives you some good guidance throughout the 2022 bear market to pick up some MTV. Right. What other questions we got? So that was So you get anyway. Thoughts on? Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. I'm skipping over. All right, so JPN, can you look at ET? So Ethereum Classic and FTT. Ethereum Classic and FT. So ECC. Wait, what is it? You want me to take a look at ET? Oh, ETC. ETC. Okay, Ethereum Classic. I'm surprised people are still into this project. Kind of like Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash was the essentially the sister to this. So Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, and then Ethereum Classic to Ethereum. And Bitcoin Cash kind of petered out. Those lines look pretty aggressive. I don't know if those are the lines I want to use. That's the way it's trading, though. Yeah, these are almost all equidistant from each other. So what I'll do here is I'll hold control. So you're watching me do this, like, just fresh analysis. I haven't looked at this chart in quite a while. So you're going to see how I piece this together. So structurally, if Bitcoin goes down 26 more percent, this might go down, 30 or 40. And which line lines with about 30 to 40? About here. So I would guess that over 2022, over the next, 60 to 75 days, with the assumption, which it could be totally incorrect, that Bitcoin bottoms within 60 to 75 days per the monthly chart, giving that indication. This would be my guess, $12.52. So let me go ahead and put my box there. And so we can follow up. And again, when I draw boxes, a lot of times they're hit. So how long would it take to get there? So now I have to take a look at how long I think it'll take to get there. Let me go like this. Right there. So I would guess it's going to hit this between early June and July. In the $12 to $13 range. So that's roughly 12 to 13, almost exactly. So 12 to 13 bucks is my 2022 target, and it could go lower. I'm not guaranteeing that's a bottom, right? This is just an area of interest. Please interpret what I'm doing as such. This is an area of interest. I'm not giving any guarantees that is an exact bottom. Don't pull all your, if you're interested in this, don't put all your money in it right there. This is an area of interest only. It could end up being a bottom or very, very close to a bottom, but this is just a target, an area of interest, 12, 13 bucks. And then it happens to align with my estimate on Bitcoin going down about 26 more percent. So this should go down 30 to 35, which is right at 12 bucks. Is that about 95% from the wick high? Look at that. Look, 93.4. So everything seems to align with the rules of thumb from current price down and from wick high down. It aligns perfectly. So this is a solid target, given that most altcoins will lose close to 95% of their value from their wick high during a bear market. And if Bitcoin goes down another 26%, this should go down 30 to 35%, which aligns with $12. Everything aligns perfectly. It aligns with the parallel origin lines that I have set up for Ethereum Classic. Just it all perfectly aligns. The stars are aligning at $12, and that's how I'm getting to that conclusion. And I guess I'll leave my box there and see how this plays out, and we can follow up over the next couple months. Yeah, I haven't done Ethereum Classic in quite a while. All right, so you also asked for FTT. I don't know what the hell that is, but it's a Bitfinex. So it's on Bitfinex. Interesting. And it's on Binance. So this... And it's called FTX token. That's interesting. Wow. Wow, this is one of the first movers. This went up with Bitcoin. Wow. Huh. And it didn't have that crazy of a run either. So this is healthy. This doesn't really have to go down too much in the bear market. I'm not aware of the FTT very much, but what I can tell here is it was one of the first movers. So people were interested in this coin at the very, very beginning of the bull market. And, you know, not even B-Pro or Veracity went up this early in December. This was a first mover. And the key thing is, one of the key things is it made its highest. So this is weird. This is almost no other altcoin did this. It made its highest high in September. Almost any coin that you're going to look at either made its high in March, April, May, around Bitcoin 64K top, or in November over here. Actually, it was more like here, or it made its higher high here in November. But this made a higher high in September. So that means either a YouTuber talked about it around August to make that happen. So if you go back to YouTube, you can search for dates. A YouTuber with over, 50,000 followers probably talked about it to get that to happen. This is so I can see in the charts that either YouTube talked about it or they released some mainnet or some partnership announcement where buyers came in. However, after whatever YouTuber or news came out with Bitcoin 69K top, people sold into that rally. So that's important to note. However, so that's not the greatest thing that people sold into the Bitcoin 69K rally. So just keep that in note though. But it only went up about 2,000% during its run, as opposed to 33,000% like Telcoin or so. It was a healthy run. Therefore, this is a strong candidate where it doesn't need to go down 95%. It might only go down 90%, or even 87, something like that from its wick high. So 85. So does 85% align with something when you look left? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make those general observations of, okay, it didn't go up too high. It didn't have some nasty parabolic move. So it doesn't have to go down 95%. This is a relatively healthy, and it's maintained, even though the buyers didn't pump things up in November, but they aren't selling off either. So the group of people who are interested in this coin aren't becoming sellers en masse. So with those two things combined, I'm not going to target 95% down. This is going to likely be an exception to my base rule based off those observations. Are you following along? So when you make a rule of thumb, you also kind of have to have rules of, well, if this and if this, then I can make an exception to my rule of thumb. And that's what I'm doing here. So now that I have that established, if something less from 90% from wick high, just a little less than 90, is there something where when I look left, there's structure? Because that's typically where things bottom. Yes, there's structure here. So this would be one of my areas of interest, probably near the top, honestly. It might find a bottom there, but let's make sure, does that align? If Bitcoin only goes down 26%, this might only go down about 30 because people aren't becoming sellers with this. So is that way more than 30%? It is. So this is not aligning. Not everything's aligning to this, and I'm not confident with that it's going to hit 1050. I actually don't think it will. So this is moving differently than most cryptos. I could see, honestly, it essentially, if I look left, is there more structure over here? Yes, there is. The bottom of this area might be its ultimate bottom. which this means it's going to hold up extraordinarily well. I can't tell which one, but I would actually make a guess. Is this about 30 to 40% down from current price? Yes, it is. Look at that, 37%. 36.6%, about actually 37. So honestly, this is going to hold up extraordinarily well. Just under $20 is probably a fantastic target. So around 19 to $20 is going to be my guess for this over the next 70 days. With the loose assumption that Bitcoin does find some type of lower low in that lower local low in that time, 19 to $20 for FTT. This is a very strong project. This is kind of reminding me of how Silo, the altcoin Silo that I follow, it went up pretty high and it maintained a nice big range up top, and this is very healthy. I'm gonna look into this. This is a strong project, and it did something that no other coin has done that I've seen. It made its highest high in September, which is kind of interesting, and then it hasn't sold off very hard. This is a good one. This is a good one to look into for other people who aren't familiar with this coin like me. And I have my targets of 19 to $20. I would be I kind of doubt $10 is going to be hit, but keep that in mind. This could be the end target, right? So if the group of people who are interested in this coin end up giving up because the bear market's longer, it could easily hit $10. But it would take a very long bear market in a deep recession of the traditional markets for that to happen. So keep that in mind. So I wouldn't pull the trigger fully here. But I would pull the trigger some because that could be close to a bottom. But always keep that it could drop down to $10 in mind as your area of interest is being hit. This one's going to be a little trickier. It's not quite as clear, but it looks very strong. That's a good coin. All right, let's take a look at so Harrison. Hey Harrison, nice to see you. Sean, hey, good to see you. JPN. So we got Harrison asking, a community member asking about MLN. I don't think I've ever looked at this coin before. Is that all the price history? It's on Coinbase. Interesting. So this is a legit, or at least what I can tell if it's on Coinbase and Binance. This is not a shitty altcoin. It's only gone down 90% from its wick high. So rule of thumb is most coins are going to lose 95%. So let's just, kind of start eyeballing this. 95%. Let's make a box here. And from current price, if Bitcoin falls 20% down or whatever, well, is this more than about 45%? It is. So those two ideas are not aligned. The 95% from top is not aligning with my idea that over the next 60 to 75 days, Bitcoin goes down 20%. I don't see $12 being hit. So what I'm going to have to do here is make another guess with maybe channels here, make a trading channel, something to this effect. So if I'm into this coin, I would probably draw a trading channel similar to this. Just make sure they're all parallel. And the way you do that is just draw one single line that hits a lot of the bottoms. Maybe go down to the 8-hour chart on this. Yeah, you might need it about on the 8 or 4-hour chart or something like that. So you can roughly skim all these bottoms here. Boom, boom. And maybe over here as well. Bam. And then hold control and drag up so it keeps it parallel, and just make it hit a bunch of other bottoms, then some tops, then some bottoms, and some tops, stuff like that. You can just keep dragging up. So I can make another line up here if I wanted to, and another, you just keep doing that. But I would definitely have this channel in here because it's playing it almost perfectly. Where will it go? So let's see what is within this area here. What is roughly 35 to 40% down, and how would it get there? So this is about 40% down. That's about $19. So during this, the next 75 days, it could easily just keep bouncing around these lines and then end up working its way to the bottom of this channel, which is about 40% down, about 19 bucks, and then recover. So yeah, it's probably going to keep playing these lines, to be honest with you. That's what it looks like it's going to do. And that's about 40% down from current price, with the idea that Bitcoin will head down at least to 22K. It could wick below significantly, but that would be an area of interest around 19 bucks, 19, 20 bucks. That would be my guess. So I'm going to keep that there in case in the near future, even if it's 6 months, wave out here, I'll be able to see how, roughly close of a guess that was with bottom. All right, let me keep moving on here. So that was MLN. I've never looked at that before. DCA targets for Ergo. All right, so I have a Argers. I'm not. So you must be either a newer community YouTube tier member, or you haven't asked a lot of questions. So I will take a look at Ergo for you. That's rough. When did it come out? So it came out during the pump up from 40K to 50K, and then during so note here, during Bitcoin's 69K top. So Bitcoin was going up this whole time. So it went up with it a little bit, but once Bitcoin went to 50K to 69K, this went down. You have to recognize that. That is not good. This was Bitcoin's 69K top here. This was its pump up. So July over here, before this came out, Bitcoin was going from 29K, screamed up to 50, and then had and then around early September started making a higher, essentially a macro higher low, and it started going up on September 30th or October 1st. Bitcoin did, and Bitcoin started racing up right here to 69K. And as Bitcoin raced up, this came down. So you have to recognize that first off, like to get an area of just point of relativity. Whoever was interested in this project did not come back to be interested as Bitcoin pumped. They put their money somewhere else. So you have to realize that. So whichever following this might have had, they left real fast. They only got one pump. So this one's gonna take a while. This is not gonna be a first mover. It's going to take a while to round out. So if you're trying to find DCA targets, you might consider DCAing to something that might be a first mover that did make a higher high with Bitcoin's 69K top, and then take profits on that whatever first mover coin, and then look back at this after you take profits, and then decide to DCA later. And what I'm saying here is, if you DCA into this early in the bear market, so before mid 2023, you're likely going to experience your money locked up and not doing anything for an extended period of time before it wants to come up far later than most things. Your money's gonna be tied up very likely for a while if you're DCAing. So, but sometimes if you have a DCA plan, you're expecting that, but just be very aware. The buyer base went away very, very fast. So how far down is it from its top? It looks like it's it's not even 90 yet. So I would guess, just an educated guess here, 95% down. Make a box, try to put points of relativity. How far down is that from current price? That might be a little too far. So I'm going to put another box around 40% down from current price. About there. Yeah, so I would make a couple guesses around $1.40 or $1.30. Yeah, $1.30 to $1.40. And if the bear market's longer, it could easily hit $1 even. Those would be my targets. And that should roughly align. Let me actually move these over. That should roughly align with the projector tool if I did it from, the current trajectory here. Where's my projector tool? Boom. Does that align in this projection? Yes, they both do. Does it happen to fall in line with my idea that we're about 60 to 75 days away from the bottom? Let me go like this, and what does that say? It says 70 days right there. So the trajectory looks good, the percentages look good for about $1.30. Everything seems to align with this area. So that's kind of how I'm coming to a good guess of $1.30 to $1.40 would be a strong area of interest. And again, this is not go all in and Kosa said this is going to be a bottom. If it goes lower, I'm going to be mad. No, this is an area of interest. This is a target. I'm not guaranteeing that. So just keep that in mind as you're doing that, and don't come blame me if it goes down to $1, because I just let you know it could easily hit $1 as well. But I would be very interested, if I were a fan of this, I would be interested in this around $1.30. All right, ATM DCA targets for Ergo. Okay, good. Yeah, here. That was a good question. I haven't seen that. All right, so I got a super chat. Theta. Yeah, Theta's a hell of a coin, man. I almost went deep into that. So Theta is one coin that hung out during the bear market at about 80 to 100 million market cap for the whole early 2019 through 2021. And I saw it, and everything else kept bleeding, and Theta stayed strong. I almost went pretty heavy into it, and I did not do that. And obviously, I missed out on a huge run on Theta. So Theta's like a very awesome Web3 option, and Web3 might be the flavor of the month next run. So, if you don't follow Theta, this could be a really good DCA option for a large cap. All right. So within your portfolio, if you're somebody who has like $500,000 in crypto, you probably don't want to piss around with small caps, right? You need to do mid caps and large caps only. That's why the larger YouTubers who have, crypto portfolios of 1 million plus, they almost never cover small caps because they can't buy them. Like, that's not worth their time, right? So, however, if you are somebody with like less than $250,000 or something, for example, small caps are a great option for you, at least with a portion of this, maybe up to like, $50K or something like that. And then the rest of it, you need to consider large caps for your bear market targets, bear market options. So among that, regardless of the type of portfolio, what I'm saying is large caps within your portfolio, especially early in a bear market, large caps typically move first when Bitcoin starts going up. So Theta is a great option, in my opinion, for a lot of those reasons combined. All right, so it's still following my channel that I drew. Who the hell knows when? I don't know when I drew this, but it must have been December or after, because that's when it started forming. It was probably more like January that I drew this. So let's extend these bad boys, and it's probably going to keep staying in this channel. It could break below it, but as of now, there's no reason to assume that. And let's drag this out to past July. Good. So with the idea that Bitcoin might bottom within this next 60 to 70 days per the monthly chart giving that indication, I would make a box between mid-June to August 1st, maybe. Something like that. And does that align? Yeah, it roughly meets the projection of this. So around 65 cents could be a pretty good area of interest structurally. However, what I need to do is now I need to measure. I need to use my measuring tool to see if things align. So I'm eyeballing this. Now that I eyeballed it, I have to see, does this make sense on a percentage basis? And so I'm going to do it two ways. I'm going to do it from its top in April. Is that 95% down? Boom, look at that. And I didn't plan this, right? So the only coin during this live chat that hasn't aligned is FTT. Look, 95% down. It's not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. It's a rule of thumb for a reason. However, this does look a little bit more than 40% down from current price, so it might not align perfectly. So this is looking like it's about 60% down. So let's see. No, that's 49.50. So that actually does kind of make sense. It might come up a little shy of this target. So I would say if Bitcoin goes down another 26%, this goes down maybe 38 to 40. So I would put 40% down. And I would make another box. I would actually make another box somewhere about here. So my couple targets would be between 75 to 85 cents, and my other target would be 60 to 70. 60 to 70 and 75 to 85, those two boxes. Let me actually mark these. And these would be pretty good bear market targets for DCAing and, trying to get into position for this. These are, everything seems to align. It almost aligns perfectly, except this box is a little too far down per my bear market target for Bitcoin. However, this could easily be hit if Bitcoin goes below 22K, which really 16.4 and 18,000 even are targets for me. So if Bitcoin does hit my lower targets, it will hit 60 to 70 cents. It will hit that in that case. But a lot of things on Bitcoin are aligning towards a 22K-ish bottom on a wick with a weekly closure up near 25, 26K. So just keep that in mind. And if that were to happen, the 22K with a rebound that week up to 25, it might not go below 75 to 85 cents. And that's what we got for Theta. All right. Thanks, Will, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Hopefully you found that helpful. And I don't know, Will, if that's what you wanted, bear market targets, I would assume, because that's kind of the gist of what everybody's asking. But if you wanted short-term time frame analysis, I would go ahead and just draw this channel and assume it's going to bounce around in this area. Something to this effect. It's gonna bounce around. So if we zoom way into the 5-minute chart, is it respecting these lines pretty well? It is. Look, these lines are the lines. And you can just play these lines, essentially, if you're trading around with your money. All right, I'm going to have to get off here in about 5 minutes. So do coin fundamentals even matter much in a bear market, in your opinion? Okay, so Sean asked a good question, and I think he's asking that because I bet he's seen me on YouTube responses or Twitter responses, people saying, oh, but, this is going to pump because of this news. And I've said to people, that stuff doesn't matter in a bear market. I have said that. So my answer to you is, if you're expecting a pump based off news, don't expect it in a bear market. So news of partnerships and news of mainnets, they get pumps in bull markets because every little stimulus makes price go boom when everything is crazy up, right? In altcoin season, everything, right? And then you sell into that news after it's released or whatever. You typically become a seller because that's just what happens. But in bear markets, it might get a very minimal corrective bounce up and then it fizzles out. So the fundamental release of news for altcoins during a bear market, they don't pull much weight. So I would say mostly no to your question, with some small exceptions, but mostly no. Thanks, man. I had it set for 83, but I was sneaking. 83 is within my target there, so that's perfect. I mean, and what you might want to do if you put all. So Will, thanks again. So let's say you're wanting to buy. We can't see my chart. You're wanting to buy $1,000 of Theta in total, right? Just in general, just for a round number. You might do 500 here and 500. You might split it in half. So you might do like 5 orders for $100 each here and 5 orders for $100 each here. So split it up into 10% increments. So whatever the base amount that you want to buy of Theta, each limit buy would be about 10%, and put 5 here and 5 here in these areas. And that might be a pretty good strategy for you. Instead of just doing half and half at one level, you probably want to split it up just in case, your exact levels aren't hit. And then if it never gets down to 60 to 70 cents, and it starts going up, what you can do is you can cancel those orders and you can market buy with a higher low structure. That's pretty much all you can do. All right, rock and roll. I'm stacking KDA because of fundamentals. That's why I want. Yeah, KDA. I mean, Sean, KDA is a great option. It got a lot of YouTube love. It's trying to do pretty ambitious things in the space. It had a nice run up. It's had a healthy correction down. It could be a first mover project that gets a hell of a bounce with Bitcoin's first bounce before it then several months later makes a higher low. But just if you're stacking it, just remember during its first aggressive move up, if that is before summer of next year, 2023, if you had DCA'd, and you see a massive pump up between 200 to 400% up, don't be scared to become a seller on its first move up, because it's going to go back down, maybe not lower lows, but it's going to make a higher low. So that's my, especially if it's, in 2022 or the Q1 of 2023. In that time, if you've DCA'd, you've acquired some KDA, and you see a 200 to 400% pump up, don't be scared to become a seller on the first bump. And then wait for a higher low, buy back, or even a lower low, buy back, and then let it rip up again. And that second bump up, you might want to hold it a little longer, because that could be the beginning of especially if you see Bitcoin getting above 40K, 50, especially 50K at that time, then that's when you probably want to hold on to stuff and let it rip to the upside for a potential altcoin season where you'll see some massive gains. But again, the first pump up, if you're DCAing during 2022, don't be scared to become a seller. At least you don't have to sell all of it. You can sell like 25 to 30% or something like that, or a third, selling into a big rally. All right. So Jimbo Khan, I think you missed my question. Did I, Jimbo? Sorry. Oh, I did. It's way up there. I'm so sorry. I think it was something to do with CEO top guy leaving out of nowhere. Tim, can you take a look at Vechain? Okay. All right. So Vechain. I have not looked at Vechain for a while. I got a community member asking about it, and then I'm going to have to wrap this up because Tuesdays and Thursdays after my live chats are my gym day. And my wife has not come to my office to knock on the door yet saying, let's go, dorkface. All right, Vechain. Look how beautifully these origin lines are working. Wow. This is so structured. Gosh, why don't I trade this coin? This is so predictable. Wow. And the reason I'm kind of like freaking out about this right now is because I haven't looked at it for a while. But if you're going to be profitable when you're clicking around with your money, profitability equals volatility plus predictability. Obviously, Vechain's pretty volatile and it's pretty predictable. This is a massive. I might start trading this. This looks beautiful. Yeah, just don't ever forget that formula. Profitability equals volatility plus predictability within a certain parameter. If you get too volatile, then it actually makes it pretty hard to trade. Like XRP is really hard to trade. So too much of any good thing is bad, right? If you have too much fun in your life, well, then you're not doing the serious things like paying. Oh, there she is. Anyway, so let me give you a quick analysis on this real quick. Making my face. All right, so if Bitcoin's going to go down a little bit more this bear market, this was probably going to go down 35 to 40%. So let's mark this off 35%. Let me kind of go like this. Now I'm assuming if I copy some of these lines here, yeah, one of these is going to align with that, right? So make it equidistant, bam, boom, bada bing, yeah, right there. And so, but does that align? So that aligns with the percentage basis. It aligns structurally. But does the projection align with my mid-June to mid-July area? And let's make a box like this. Is that June to July? Hell yes, it is. So everything seems to be aligning outside of, I haven't measured from the top down to see if it's about 95%, close to 95%. I haven't done that yet, but we'll do that last. So right now, everything that I've tried is aligning almost perfectly for this. Now, the last moment of truth, let's see if this aligns with roughly 90 to 98%. It's got to be 90 to 98% for all the stars to align. Is that in that area? 93%. Everything aligns. Therefore, that's one solid ass target. Am I guaranteeing you this is the exact bottom? No, I'm not. Please don't interpret this as, Kosa said this is the bottom, so I'm going to go all in. Don't do that. Don't do that. Rather, consider this as an area of interest, of serious interest, where you begin DC, like this is where your DCA plan starts getting pretty serious around 20 cents or 2 cents. Around 2 cents. 2 cents to 217. So with a zero in front. So 0.0217 to 0.0191. 191 to 217 roughly in that area is the stars are aligning. So anywhere around either side of 2 cents is really good area to put in some limit buy orders for 2022, expecting it to hit somewhere around late June to July. What else do we have? The short-term time frames. Well, what we can see here is it lost this origin line here. So it lost it. It's using it as resistance. So it needs to start forming some higher lows. Let me actually go down to the 1 hour chart. Does it have a chance to get back above? It actually just made a lower low. So in order to get above this, it probably needs to make higher lows. And this just so low, higher low, higher low. And then it made a lower low and a lower low. It's probably going to come up to here in the short-term time frame, 3.3 cents, and then fail and then try to make a higher low down here. So its best option to wiggle up a little bit more to make a tradable move to the upside is to get above this line and fail it, but then make a higher low and then try. So before it gets before it gets confidently above this line for some type of corrective move to the upside, it probably needs to go above it, fail it, make a higher low, and then try. It'll get above it on its second try, not its first try, because it broke higher low structure. That's extremely probable to happen if it goes up in the short term, which I'm not saying it will. However, that would probably be best case scenario for you right there on the very short term time frame. And more bearish case, it could easily do something like just make a lower high and keep wiggling its way down and come down to this and lose it, and then go down to the next target here, closer to our box. So just realize either way you interpret this on the short-term time frames, you're going to want to go to small time frames like the 1 hour and kind of look at this little line here, and how does price interact with that would be how I would interpret which way it's going to go once it interacts with this line. So it does look like it'll play with it, but how it plays with it is how I would interpret, make my analysis thereafter. I don't know how it's going to interact with that at this time, but I showed you a bearish case and a bullish case, and it's going to do one of those two things or something in between. And it just depends on how the stock market starts recovering or keeps bleeding out, and how Bitcoin reacts to that. And I'm going to end the Vechain analysis with that. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thanks for being here. And again, actually not again, but next week, I'm going to have likely different times. So I will release those on Twitter and on YouTube. On the post or whatever it is, and I will let you know what times. I haven't decided, but next week I'll probably have to start switching times, and